I'm standing in the boardroom of Chen and Daughter Imports, the company my grandmother built from nothing 40 years ago, watching my younger sister Morgan practice her power pose in front of the floor-to-ceiling windows. She's wearing a designer suit that costs more than my monthly salary, her freshly highlighted hair pulled back in what I am sure she thinks is an intimidating bun. As CEO, she says, testing out the words like she's trying on a crown, I think my first order of business will be restructuring the management team. I'm trying not to laugh. I really am. But Morgan has been CEO for exactly 47 minutes, and she's already talking like she founded Amazon in her garage. Our grandmother, Lily Chen, built this import business with $300 and a dream back in 1983. She started by selling handmade ceramics from her home village in Taiwan at weekend markets in San Francisco. By the time I was born, Chen and Daughter had 12 employees and a warehouse in Oakland. By the time Morgan was born, 5 years later, we had distribution contracts with major retailers across the West Coast. Grandma Lily ran this company with an iron fist wrapped in silk until last month, when a stroke forced her into early retirement at 72. The board meeting to announce her successor was yesterday. Everyone expected it would be our mother, Jennifer, who's been COO for 15 years and knows this business inside and out. Mom certainly expected it. Instead, Grandma Lily named Morgan, 26-year-old Morgan, who has an MBA from Stanford and exactly 2 years of experience working in our finance department. Morgan, who still calls me when she can't figure out how to file her quarterly taxes. Morgan, who just last week asked me what FOB pricing meant, a term we use approximately 700 times a day in international trade. I've been working at Chen & Daughter since I was 16 years old, started in the warehouse during summer breaks, moved to logistics coordination after college, worked my way up to director of operations by the time I was 28. I know every supplier personally. I know every shipping route, every customs regulation, every little trick that keeps international trade moving smoothly. I know which manufacturers can handle rush orders and which ones need 3 months lead time. I know that our biggest client, Nordstrom, prefers deliveries on Thursdays, and that our warehouse manager, Luis, takes his coffee with 4 sugars and no cream. I wasn't expecting to be named CEO. That was always going to be Mom's role. But I also wasn't expecting my little sister, who spent the last board meeting scrolling through Instagram and texting her boyfriend last night, to suddenly be my boss. Emily? Morgan's voice cuts through my thoughts, sharp with irritation. Are you even listening to me? Sorry, I say, straightening in my chair and forcing my attention back to her. What were you saying about restructuring? She sighs dramatically, like I'm particularly slow student who just doesn't get it. I was saying that this company needs fresh leadership, new perspectives, innovative thinking. We've been doing things the same way for decades, and it's making us stagnant. I bite my tongue hard enough to taste blood. Last quarter, we had our highest revenue in company history. Our profit margins increased by 14%. We signed 3 new major retail partnerships, including a deal with Anthropologie that took me 6 months to negotiate. But sure, Morgan, we're totally stagnant. I've been reviewing the organizational chart. Morgan continues, pulling out her iPad with the kind of flourish that suggests she thinks she's presenting at a TED Talk. And I've identified several areas of redundancy and inefficiency that need to be addressed immediately. My phone buzzes in my pocket. A text from Mom. Conference room 2, now. Bring coffee, the strong kind. I excuse myself, grateful for the escape, and head to the small conference room on the 2nd floor, where Mom has essentially barricaded herself since yesterday's announcement. She's surrounded by file boxes and her laptop, her reading glasses perched on top of her head, looking every bit the seasoned executive she is. Your sister just sent me a memo, Mom says, without even looking up from her screen. "A memo, Emily. We share an office suite." She could have walked 20 feet to talk to me in person. I hand her the coffee. Extra strong, like she asked. "What did the memo say?" "She wants to schedule one-on-ones with all department heads to discuss their performance metrics and strategic alignment with her vision for the company." Mom takes a long sip of coffee and winces. She's been CEO for less than an hour, and she's already talking about her vision. 47 minutes, I correct automatically. I've been counting. Mom almost smiles. Almost. "Your grandmother has lost her mind. That's the only explanation." "Grandma Lily always has a plan," I say, though I'm not entirely sure I believe it this time. Maybe she sees something in Morgan that we don't. What I see is a 26-year-old who thinks an MBA from Stanford and good bone structure qualify her to run a $40 million company with 200 employees and complex international supply chains. The intercom on the wall crackles to life. Morgan's assistant, the one she hired yesterday before she was even officially CEO, sounds nervous. "Emily Chen, please report to the CEO's office immediately." Mom and I exchange looks that contain entire conversations. "Here we go," I mutter, draining my own coffee like I'm taking a shot of whiskey. Morgan's office, which was Grandma Lily's office until 24 hours ago, has been completely rearranged. The traditional Chinese furniture that Grandma spent years collecting, each piece with its own story and significance, has been pushed into the corners like forgotten relics. There's a standing desk now, positioned to catch the best light from the windows. One of those ergonomic kneeling chairs that looks like a medieval torture device. A diffuser on the credenza, putting out clouds of what smells aggressively like eucalyptus and ambition. "Emily, sit." Morgan gestures to the chair across from her standing desk, which puts me at an immediate height disadvantage. A power move I recognize from every business psychology book she probably skimmed on the plane back from her honeymoon in Bali last month. I sit. I wait. She types something on her laptop, making me wait longer. Another power move from the same chapter. I pull out my own phone and see 17 messages in our department heads group chat, all variations of, "What the hell is happening?" and "Is anyone else getting weird vibes?" Finally, Morgan looks up, her expression arranged into something she probably thinks looks like thoughtful concern. "Emily, I wanted to talk to you about your role here." "My role as Director of Operations," I clarify, keeping my voice neutral. "The position I've held for 3 years?" "Yes, exactly. About that." She leans forward on her standing desk, and I fight the urge to roll my eyes at the theatrical nature of it all. "I think we need to have an honest conversation about whether your current position is the best fit for your skill set and the company's evolving needs moving forward." I feel something cold settle in my stomach, but I keep my expression blank. "What exactly are you saying, Morgan?" "I'm saying that I've spent the last month doing a comprehensive review of all our operational procedures, and I've identified some significant inefficiencies, redundant processes, outdated systems, a certain resistance to innovation and change that's holding us back from reaching our full potential." "You've been in finance," I point out, my professional mask starting to crack. "What do you know about operations?" "I know that we're still using a warehouse management system from 2015. I know that we process purchase orders manually when there are automated solutions available that could save us hundreds of hours. I know that your department has the highest headcount in the company, and I'm not seeing proportional value creation relative to that investment." I stare at her, genuinely speechless for a moment. The warehouse system from 2015 is fully customized for our specific inventory needs and integrates with our suppliers' systems. We tried automated PO processing 3 years ago, and it created more errors than it solved because our suppliers in Taiwan and China all use different formats and protocols. And my department has the highest headcount because we're an import company. Operations is literally what we do. It's the core business. Morgan's expression hardens, and I can see her shifting into the defensive mode she's perfected since childhood. This is exactly the kind of defensive, change-resistant attitude I'm talking about. You're so invested in the way things have always been done that you can't see possibilities for improvement and evolution. Or maybe, I say, my voice dangerously calm, I understand the actual business we're in and the real-world constraints we operate under. Emily. She stands up fully now, using her standing desk for maximum intimidation effect, which would be more effective if she wasn't 5'3". I'm trying to do this professionally. I'm trying to handle this like adults and give you options. But if you're going to be combative and resistant, options? I interrupt, leaning forward in my chair. What options, Morgan? She takes a deep breath, like she's about to deliver difficult news instead of what I'm increasingly certain is a prepared speech she's been rehearsing in the mirror. I think it would be best for everyone, for you and for the company, if you transitioned out of your current role. I'm prepared to offer you a generous severance package, 6 months salary, continued health insurance through the end of the year, and a positive reference for future employment opportunities. The words hang in the air between us for a long moment. I can hear the hum of the air conditioning, the distant sound of phones ringing in other offices, my own heartbeat pounding in my ears. You're firing me, I say flatly. I'm offering you an opportunity to pursue other interests with a strong financial foundation and the company's full support. Morgan corrects, like she's reading from a script, which she probably is. You're firing me, I repeat, each word sharp and clear. From our family's company, the company our grandmother built from nothing, the company I've worked at for 12 years, since I was 16 years old. I'm making a difficult business decision that I believe is in the best interests of Chen and daughter's future growth and success. Morgan says this, and she actually sounds like she believes it. This isn't personal, Emily. It's about what's strategically optimal for the organization. That's when I start laughing. I can't help it. The absurdity of the situation, the audacity of it just crashes over me like a wave, and suddenly I'm laughing so hard that tears are streaming down my face and I have to grip the arms of the chair to stay upright. Morgan's face flushes red, then white, then red again. This is exactly the kind of unprofessional, immature behavior. I manage between gasps of laughter. You have been CEO for less than an hour, and you're firing the director of operations, the person who actually knows how this company runs on a day-to-day basis, the person who has relationships with every supplier and every major client, because you spent a month looking at spreadsheets and decided you know better than 12 years of experience? You have an MBA from Stanford. You have a degree. You have a piece of paper that says you sat in classrooms for 2 years and wrote some case studies. I have 12 years of actually doing this job, of solving real problems, of keeping this company running when things go wrong. I know every supplier personally. I know their families. I know which shipping companies are reliable and which ones will lose our containers in Long Beach for 3 weeks. I know that our biggest client is currently threatening to leave because their orders have been delayed twice in the last month. Do you know why their orders have been delayed, Morgan? Morgan's silence is extremely telling. I'm saying that someone in finance changed our payment terms with our primary manufacturer without consulting operations first. And now that manufacturer is deprioritizing our orders because we're paying them slower than their other clients. Would you happen to know who made that brilliant strategic decision about payment terms, Morgan? Her face goes from red to pale so fast I think she might actually faint. That change was meant to improve our cash flow position. It saved us 14 days on payment and cost us a $100,000 account. But sure, let's fire operations. That'll definitely solve all the problems you've created. That's some excellent strategic thinking right there. I walk toward the door, still grinning like a maniac, and pause with my hand on the handle. You know what? I'll cake your severance package. 6 months' salary to watch you run this company into the ground from a safe distance? That's honestly the best offer I've heard all year. Have fun explaining to the board why on-time delivery drops below 70% next quarter. I walk out before she can respond, my laughter echoing down the hallway. The entire office has gone completely silent. Everyone heard everything through these ridiculously thin walls. They always do. That's why we usually have difficult conversations in the soundproofed conference rooms. But apparently Morgan didn't get that memo. Or maybe she did and just didn't care. Mom is standing in her office doorway, her face carefully neutral, in that way that means she's absolutely furious but trying not to show it. Emily? She fired me, I say, and I'm still grinning, still riding this wave of hysteria and vindication. She actually fired me. On her first day. Her first hour, technically. I know. I heard. Everyone heard. Mom glances back toward Morgan's office, then at the 30 or so employees who are definitely not pretending to work anymore. Give me 20 minutes. I'll fix this. Don't, I say, surprising both of us. I want to see how this plays out. I really, genuinely want to watch what happens next. I spend the rest of the day cleaning out my office while Morgan holds her scheduled one-on-ones with the department heads. Through the walls, I can hear raised voices. The warehouse manager quits. The head of purchasing threatens to quit unless Morgan reverses several recent decisions. The senior logistics coordinator, Maria, who's been with the company for 8 years, actually does quit. She walks past my office with a box of her things and a smile that exactly matches my own earlier expression. Good luck, she says, pausing in my doorway. Though honestly, I think you're going to need it more than me. I already have 3 job offers. By 5 p.m., I'm done packing. 12 years of work fits into 3 cardboard boxes and a rolling bag. Photos from company events, awards and certificates, the coffee mug that says, World's Okayest Operations Director, that Luis gave me as a joke last Christmas, my name placard from my door, a blanket I kept for late nights when shipments went wrong and I had to stay to fix them. I'm carrying the last box out to my car when I literally run into Grandma Lily in the lobby. She's in her wheelchair, having just finished her daily physical therapy session, looking as sharp and observant as ever, despite the stroke that supposedly incapacitated her enough to step down. Emily, she says, her voice still slightly slurred on one side, but her mind clearly razor sharp. Leaving early today? Leaving permanently, actually, I say, adjusting the box in my arms. Morgan fired me about 6 hours ago now. Grandma's expression doesn't change, doesn't even flicker with surprise. Did she? You knew, I realize, the pieces clicking into place with sudden crystal clarity. You knew she would do this. You knew exactly what would happen when you named her CEO. I knew she would try to prove herself, Grandma says carefully, gesturing to the seating area in the lobby. Sit with me for a moment, granddaughter. We move to the uncomfortable modern chairs that Morgan's predecessor in the design committee chose, me balancing my box on my lap, Grandma Lily watching me with those eyes that have seen everything, built everything, survived everything, and apparently orchestrated whatever the hell this is. You're angry, she observes. I'm unemployed, I correct. There's a significant difference. But are you, though, unemployed? She leans forward slightly, and I catch a glimpse of the sharp businesswoman who built a multi-million-dollar company from $300 and sheer determination. Emily, tell me something honestly. What was your plan? Work as director of operations until I died. Then work as director of operations under your mother until she retired. Then work as director of operations under Morgan for another 30 years. I open my mouth to argue, then close it. I'm good at my job. You're excellent at your job, actually. You're brilliant at your job. You're also 29 years old, and you've been doing essentially the same excellent job for 3 years. When was the last time you pushed yourself into something uncomfortable? When was the last time you failed at something and had to figure out how to succeed anyway? I fail at things, I protest weakly. Name one. In the last 5 years. I can't. I've been so focused on being reliable, being steady, being the person everyone can count on to solve problems and keep things running smoothly, that I've essentially built a cage of competence around myself. Morgan will struggle, Grandma says, her voice matter of fact. She will make mistakes. Big ones, expensive ones, embarrassing ones. But she will learn from them because she'll have no choice. She has something to prove to herself and to everyone else who thinks she only got this position because of her last name and her degree. And I don't have something to prove? You've already proven yourself, Emily. You've proven you can run operations better than anyone else in this company, possibly better than anyone in our entire industry. Now you need to prove something else, to yourself more than anyone. She reaches over and pats my hand with her slightly trembling one. Take the severance. Take 6 months. Figure out what you actually want instead of what you think you should do, or what would make your family happy, or what's safe and comfortable. What if Morgan destroys the company in those 6 months? I ask, and I hate how much I care about the answer. Grandma Lily smiles, and there's something almost mischievous in it. Then she will learn a very expensive lesson about the difference between theory and practice, and you will have options you don't currently have. But I don't think she will destroy it. I think she will struggle badly, and then she will figure out how to ask for help, and then she will become someone actually worth working for instead of someone people work for out of family obligation. Or she won't, and the board will replace her within a year, and you will still have more options than you do right now. You could have just named Mom CEO, I point out. She actually knows how to do the job. Your mother is brilliant, absolutely brilliant, but she doesn't want to be CEO, Emily. She never has. She wants to be COO. She wants to solve operational problems and implement systems and make things run smoothly. She doesn't want to manage board politics and shareholder expectations and strategic vision. Ask her yourself if you don't believe me. Grandma leans back in her wheelchair, looking satisfied with herself. I built this company from nothing. Your mother maintained it and made it profitable. Morgan will either evolve it into something new or she'll destroy it trying. Either way, you'll learn something valuable about yourself and what you're capable of outside of this comfortable cage you've built. I want to argue. I want to tell her she's wrong, that she's being manipulative, that this is a terrible plan that's going to blow up in everyone's faces. But there's a logic to it that I can't quite deny, a long game strategy that I'm only beginning to understand. So I just nod slowly, stand up with my box, and head out to my car. Behind me, through the glass doors of Chen & Daughter Imports, I can see Morgan in her office, still at her standing desk, looking stressed and overwhelmed, and suddenly very, very young. The first week of unemployment is completely disorienting. I sleep until 9 a.m., which feels impossibly decadent, and also makes me deeply anxious. I organize my entire apartment, Marie Kondo style. I deep clean everything, including the grout in the bathroom tile. I meal prep elaborate lunches for 2 weeks, even though I'm only one person and most of it will probably go bad. I applied to exactly 0 jobs because I genuinely have no idea what I want to do with my life besides the thing I've been doing for 12 years. By week 2, I'm climbing the walls. I check the company's social media obsessively, like a stalker ex-girlfriend. Morgan has rebranded our Instagram, hired a social media manager who seems very enthusiastic about behind-the-scenes content, and started posting daily stories that are getting surprisingly good engagement from younger consumers. She's also delayed 3 major shipments, according to my former assistant who texts me updates I pretend I don't desperately want. Week 3, my Aunt Carol calls. She's my mother's younger sister, owns a small chain of boutique clothing stores across the Bay Area, and she needs help. My inventory is a disaster, Emily. A complete disaster. Can you take a look? I'll pay you, obviously. I say yes immediately because I need something to do with my hands and my brain before I lose my mind completely. Aunt Carol's inventory system is genuinely horrifying. Everything is tracked in Excel spreadsheets that haven't been updated correctly in 6 months. Stock counts that don't match what's actually on the shelves by margins that would make any auditor weep. Reorder points that someone set 5 years ago and never adjusted for changing sales patterns or seasonal variations. I spend 1 week completely rebuilding her entire inventory management system. I implement a simple but effective cloud-based system that actually tracks stock in real time. I train her staff on proper receiving procedures and cycle counting. I create actual processes for stock takes and variance investigation. I fix problems I didn't even know existed until I started looking. Aunt Carol is absolutely thrilled. She pays me $3,000 and immediately refers me to 2 of her boutique owner friends who apparently have identical problems. By week 6, I have 4 consulting clients and a waiting list. Turns out, lots of small businesses have serious operations problems and absolutely no idea how to fix them. They can't afford a full-time operations manager with my experience, but they can definitely afford a consultant who comes in, analyzes their systems, fixes the critical problems, and trains their staff in a few focused weeks. I'm making more money than I did at Chen& Daughter. Significantly more. I'm working maybe half the hours, and I'm actually enjoying it because every problem is different. Every solution requires genuine creativity, and I'm learning more in 6 weeks than I learned in 3 years doing the same job day after day. Meanwhile, according to my network of spies who are definitely not supposed to be texting me, Morgan is learning the hard way what happens when you fire everyone who actually knows how things work. Mom calls me in week 8. Her voice is carefully neutral, which means she's absolutely furious but trying to maintain professional composure. Your sister wants to talk to you. About what? I ask, even though I can guess. About the fact that our on-time delivery rate has dropped to 72% and 2 major clients have put their accounts under review. Nordstrom just sent a formal complaint letter. Anthropologie is threatening to cancel that contract you spent 6 months negotiating. I should not feel this validated. I should be mature and professional and worried about the family business. But instead, I feel absolutely deliciously vindicated. What does she want me to do about it? She wants to hire you back. As director of operations? I ask, already knowing the answer. As a consultant. Mom's tone is so dry, it could dry hydrate fruit. I believe she's calling it a strategic operational advisory role. That's not even a real thing. She just made that up. I'm extremely aware. Are you interested? I think about it for exactly 5 seconds. Tell her my consulting rate is $300 an hour with a minimum 3-month commitment, 20 hours per week. She can book time on my calendar through my website like everyone else. There's a long pause. Emily, that's $60,000 for 3 months of part-time work. You're going to bankrupt your own family's company. Then maybe she shouldn't have fired the person who actually knew how to run it, I say sweetly. Also, that's my rate for everyone. I'm not giving family discounts to family members who fired me. Mom makes a sound that might be a laugh or might be a sob. You know what? Good for you. Send me your website. I'll forward it to her. Morgan emails me the next day. It's a formal business email, professionally written like we're complete strangers, instead of sisters who shared a bedroom until I was 13. She outlines the company's current operational challenges in careful corporate language that doesn't admit any actual mistakes. She asks about my availability and expertise. She suggests we schedule a preliminary consultation to discuss potential engagement parameters. I respond with my standard client onboarding email, including my rate sheet, my contract terms, and my scheduling link. I'm professional, but not warm. I'm available, but not eager. I have other clients now, and Chen and Daughter doesn't get special treatment just because my DNA is in the letterhead. She agrees to everything, every term, every rate, every condition, which tells me exactly how desperate she is. Our first consulting session is scheduled for a Tuesday morning in the same boardroom where this whole thing started, exactly 9 weeks after she fired me. I arrive at 8:59, dressed in the kind of expensive consultant outfit I could never afford when I was an employee. I've learned a lot about personal branding in the last 2 months. Morgan is already there, and she looks absolutely exhausted. The power suits are gone, replaced by something more practical but still trying too hard. Her hair is in a simple ponytail instead of that intimidating bun. There are actual stress lines around her eyes that definitely weren't there 3 months ago. She's aged in a way that tells me she's been sleeping badly and working constantly and still failing.
Thank you for coming, she says, and she almost sounds sincere instead of performative. You're paying me $300 an hour, I reply, setting down my laptop bag and pulling out my iPad. Let's not waste time on pleasantries. What's the problem? She pulls out a file folder that's practically bursting with papers, sticky notes, and what looks like printed email chains. Everything. The warehouse is 3 weeks behind on processing. Our suppliers are deprioritizing our orders because of those payment terms changes I made. 2 major clients are threatening to leave. The logistics team is completely overwhelmed, and I have absolutely no idea how to fix any of it. Okay, I say, opening a new document on my iPad. Let's start with the suppliers. You changed payment terms without building relationships first or understanding the cultural context of business in Taiwan and China. In Asian manufacturing, relationships and face matter more than contract terms. You embarrass them by unilaterally changing terms, and now they're punishing you for it. You need to call each supplier personally, apologize for the disruption, explain the situation, and negotiate a path back to priority status. It'll take time and humility. I don't speak Mandarin, Morgan says quietly, and there's something vulnerable in her voice. Then you need someone who does. Have you actually talked to Mom about this? Mom is barely speaking to me. Morgan slumps in her chair, and suddenly she doesn't look like a CEO or even like my annoying younger sister. She just looks like a 26-year-old who's in way over her head. I have absolutely no idea what I'm doing. For the first time since this entire disaster started, I feel something other than vindication and schadenfreude. I feel something that might actually be sympathy. Morgan, why did you fire me, really? She's quiet for a long moment, staring at her hands. Honestly, because I was absolutely terrified. Because everyone kept comparing me to you and Mom and Grandma, and I knew I didn't measure up. Because I thought if I made big, decisive moves immediately, people would take me seriously and stop seeing me as the little sister who got promoted because of her degree and her last name. Because I'm 26 years old and I have no idea how to be a CEO, and I thought I could fake confidence until I figured it out. You can't fake operational knowledge, I say, and my voice is gentler than I intend. But you can learn it if you're willing to admit what you don't know. Here's what's going to happen. I'm going to fix your immediate crises over the next 3 months. I'm going to train your operations team properly. And I'm going to teach you enough about how this business actually runs on a practical level that you can make informed decisions instead of panicked ones. But you need to do something for me first. What? She asks, looking up with something like hope.
Stop trying to prove you deserve this job and start actually doing it. Stop making changes because they look decisive and start making changes with real problems. Stop pretending you know everything and start listening to people who know more than you do. And for the love of everything holy, you owe Luis an apology. The man has been with this company for 18 years, and you treated him like he was disposable. He quit, Morgan says. He gave his 2 weeks' notice. There's a difference. He hasn't actually left yet. Go talk to him today before his notice period ends and ask him what it would take for him to stay. And actually listen to his answer. Okay, she says. I can do that. What else? We're going to create a structured learning plan. You're going to shadow me on supplier calls. You're going to spend 1 day a week working in the warehouse doing actual physical labor. You're going to sit in on customer service calls so you can hear directly from clients what they actually care about. You're going to learn this business from the ground up, the way Grandma Lily did, the way I did. Morgan nods slowly. That sounds completely humiliating. It is, but it's also the only way you're going to actually understand what you're doing. Pride or competence. You can't have both right now. Competence, she says after a moment. Competence. I choose competence. Over the next 3 months, I spend 20 hours a week at Chen & Daughter, fixing what Morgan broke and teaching her how not to break things in the future. I make her shadow me on supplier calls where I grovel and apologize and slowly rebuild relationships she damaged. I make her spend every Thursday in the warehouse with Luis, learning how inventory actually moves through our system. I make her sit in on difficult customer calls so she can hear directly how her decisions impacted real people. She hates every minute of it. She also learns more in those 3 months than she learned in 2 years of business school and 2 years in the finance department, combined. The on-time delivery rate slowly climbs back up, 90% by month 2, 93% by month 3. We managed to retain Nordstrom with a combination of groveling, discounts, and guaranteed delivery improvements. We win back Anthropology by having Morgan personally fly to their headquarters and take responsibility for the failures. We even signed 2 smaller retail partnerships because our Instagram presence has actually attracted attention from boutique buyers. And somewhere in the middle of all that chaos and learning, Morgan stops being my incompetent little sister who fired me out of insecurity and starts being someone I might actually be able to respect, maybe even work with long term. We're in the warehouse on a Friday afternoon in month 3, reviewing the new inventory tracking system I implemented, when she says, I was wrong to fire you. I look up from my tablet where I'm checking cycle count variances. I know you were. I was intimidated by you, by how good you are at this, by how much everyone respects you and trusts your judgment. I thought if you were gone, people would have to respect me by default instead. I didn't understand that respect isn't zero-sum. You being excellent doesn't make me less so. Your competence doesn't threaten mine. No, I agree, making a note about a SKU that needs recount. Your incompetence made you less competent. That's how competence works. She laughs, and it sounds genuine. Fair point. But I'm less incompetent now, right? I'm actually learning. You're significantly less incompetent, I allow. You're still making mistakes, but at least they're new mistakes based on incomplete information instead of the same stupid mistakes based on arrogance and ignorance.
I'll take it. She sets down the box she's holding and turns to face me directly. Emily, I want to make you an offer. A real one this time. I'm already consulting for you at extremely generous rates that are subsidizing my very comfortable lifestyle. I want to hire you back, not as a consultant, not as director of operations, as a partner. She pulls out her phone and shows me a document. I've been working on this with Mom and Grandma and our corporate attorney. Co-CEO structure, You run operations and logistics. I run strategy and finance and external relations. Equal salary, equal authority, shared decision-making on major issues. Grandma Lily already approved it. Mom is enthusiastically on board. I just need you to say yes. I take her phone and read through the proposal slowly. It's actually well thought out and professionally structured, with clear delineations of responsibility and decision-making frameworks that make genuine sense. You wrote this yourself? I had substantial help from Mom and Grandma and our attorney, and I possibly consulted several business books about co-leadership structures, and I definitely spent at least $900 of consulting time with my sister, picking her brain about what would actually work. She's trying to smile, but I can see the nervousness underneath it. Look, I know I don't deserve this. I know I screwed up catastrophically and expensively, but I genuinely think that together we could do something amazing here, something neither of us could do alone. I think about the last 4 months, the shock and anger of being fired, the unexpected freedom and success of consulting, the satisfaction of watching Morgan fail and then struggle and then slowly, painfully learn. The way Grandma Lily somehow predicted all of it with terrifying accuracy, the realization that I actually have options now, choices I didn't have before, because I was too comfortable in my comfortable cage. I have conditions, I say finally. Name them, all of them. First, we get rid of that ridiculous standing desk. I'm not having meetings where you literally look down on me. Morgan laughs. Done, though I'm keeping the ergonomic chair. That chair makes you look like you're praying to the gods of productivity. I like it. It's good for my posture. It's deeply weird. Says the woman who kept a blanket in her office. That blanket was for late-night shipment emergencies. It was practical. It was a security blanket. We're both grinning now, and it feels like something is shifting between us. Not quite friendship yet, but maybe the foundation for actual partnership instead of sibling rivalry and competition. Second condition, I continue. Decision-making framework needs to include a tiebreaker mechanism. What happens when we fundamentally disagree on major decisions? Mom acts as a tiebreaker on operational issues, Grandma on strategic ones. That could work. Third condition. I want Luis promoted to senior warehouse manager with appropriate compensation increase. He stayed when he could have left, and he's been training the new people you hired to replace the people who quit. Already done. I gave him a 15% raise last week and a formal apology. Fourth condition. My consulting clients. They're mine. I built those relationships, and I'm not abandoning them just because I'm coming back here. What if I said those consulting relationships are competitive conflicts of interest? Then I'd say no to your offer and keep consulting full-time while you continue to struggle. Morgan considers this. Fair. Keep your clients. We'll work out a schedule that doesn't conflict with your responsibilities here. Anything else? One more thing. I want quarterly reviews where we assess this co-CEO structure honestly. If it's not working, if we're making each other miserable or making bad decisions because of ego or family dynamics, we revisit the structure. No sacred cows. No pretending things are fine when they're not. Agreed. So is that a yes? I take a deep breath. 3 months ago, I was fired and humiliated. 2 months ago, I was building a consulting business I loved. 1 month ago, I was teaching my sister how to not destroy our family legacy. And now I'm standing in a warehouse looking at a partnership offer that's actually fair and well-structured and might genuinely work. I say it's a yes, but I'm still going to give you endless grief about that standing desk. I expect nothing less. The board meeting to approve our co-CEO structure is scheduled for the following week. Mom presents the proposal with professional efficiency that mostly hides how pleased she is about this development. Grandma Lily participates via video call, saying almost nothing but watching everything with those sharp eyes that miss nothing. The board has extensive questions about power dynamics and decision deadlock scenarios and what happens if our relationship deteriorates.
Morgan fields most of them with surprising poise, explaining our proposed structure and conflict resolution mechanisms. When they ask about my qualifications and whether this is just nepotism, I walk them through our operational recovery over the last 3 months with detailed metrics, client testimonials, and profit margin improvements that speak louder than any degree. They approve it, unanimously. That evening, we have family dinner at Grandma Lily's house. Mom is there, obviously, Aunt Carol and Uncle James, a handful of cousins who work in various capacities at the company or adjacent businesses. Morgan and I arrived together, having spent the afternoon moving my things back into an office directly adjacent to hers, connected by a door that neither of us is entirely sure how to feel about yet. Grandma Lily is in her wheelchair at the head of the table, looking extremely pleased with herself in a way that confirms she orchestrated this entire disaster from the beginning. "To my granddaughters," she says, raising her wine glass with her less affected hand, who finally figured out that they're stronger together than apart. "You knew," I point to her with my chopsticks in a way that would normally get me scolded. "You knew Morgan would fire me. You knew I'd start consulting. You knew we'd end up exactly here." "I knew you were both too stubborn to learn anything the easy way," Grandma replies with perfect serenity. "I knew Morgan needed to fail before she could succeed properly. I knew you needed to leave before you could appreciate what you had here. I knew you both needed to stop competing with each other and start collaborating as equals." "You let me fire Emily," Morgan says, and there's something almost betrayed in her voice. "You could have stopped me. You could have told me it was a terrible idea."
I could have, Grandma agrees. But then you wouldn't have learned anything meaningful. You would have been CEO in title, but always second-guessing yourself, always wondering if you actually earned the position or if I just gave it to you out of family obligation. Now you know exactly what you're capable of doing well and exactly what you need help with. That's worth the expensive lesson. It was a very expensive lesson, Mom points out. We lost 2 major clients temporarily, our delivery metrics were disastrous, and you made me extremely stressed for 4 months. The clients came back, the metrics recovered, and you could use some stress occasionally. You were getting too comfortable in that COO role. Grandma takes a sip of wine. Besides, Emily needed to learn that she has genuine options beyond this company, that she's extraordinarily valuable in the broader market, that she can create success on her own terms instead of just inheriting mine. Now, when she chooses to be here, it's an active choice based on what she actually wants, not a default option because she doesn't know what else to do. She's right, and I genuinely hate that she's right about everything. 4 months ago, I was so embedded in my identity as director of operations at Chen and Daughter that I couldn't imagine any other future. Now I know I can consult successfully. I can teach and train and solve problems in multiple industries. I can build valuable relationships and command premium rates and create impact beyond one company. I'm choosing to come back because I want to build something here, not because I'm trapped by family obligation or lack of imagination. "You are a manipulative genius," I tell Grandma. "I'm a businesswoman who built something worth preserving and passing on," she corrects. "And I needed to make sure the next generation could actually handle it, not just maintain what I built, but evolve it, grow it, make it relevant for new markets and new generations. You two have complementary strengths. Morgan sees possibilities and opportunities I would never have considered. Emily understands operations and execution in ways that can't be taught in business school. Together, you're exactly what this company needs for the next 40 years. "What if we'd never figured it out?" Morgan asks. "What if I just destroyed everything irreparably?" "Then I would have intervened directly before the damage became permanent," Grandma says, simply. "I'm old and I had a stroke, but I'm not senile or powerless. I had contingency plans. I would have replaced you on the board if necessary. But I didn't need those contingencies because you both did exactly what I expected.
You both failed in instructive ways, you both learned from those failures, and you both figured out how to succeed together. Later that night, Morgan and I end up doing dishes in Grandma's kitchen. It's weirdly domestic and weirdly normal, standing side by side, scrubbing plates and passing serving bowls like we used to when we were kids, before competition and resentment complicated everything. "Can I ask you something?" Morgan says, not looking up from the pot she's scrubbing. "Sure." "When you fired me and you started laughing like a maniac, what were you actually thinking in that moment?" I consider lying or softening the truth, then decide we're past that kind of polite fiction. I was thinking that you had absolutely no idea what you were doing, that you were going to fail spectacularly and publicly, and that I was going to thoroughly enjoy watching it happen, because you deserved it. Wow. Okay, that's harsh but completely fair. But then, after I stopped being vindictive and petty, I realized something important. You were genuinely brave. Stupid and arrogant, but also brave. You made a decision you thought was right, even though everyone was going to hate you for it, even though it was probably the wrong decision. You committed to it completely instead of hedging or trying to please everyone. That doesn't sound like a compliment. It's not entirely a compliment, but it's not nothing either. I've spent years making safe, reliable, good enough decisions, maintaining what exists instead of risking failure by trying something new. You made a wild swing for the fences and you missed completely, but at least you actually swung. I hand her another dish. And then, when you realized you'd messed up badly, you didn't double down or make excuses or blame everyone else. You asked for help. You admitted what you didn't know. You learned. That takes a different kind of courage than I usually have. Morgan is quiet for a moment, her hands still in the soapy water. I'm really glad you're coming back. Like, genuinely glad. Not just because I need you to fix my mistakes. I'm genuinely glad you're paying me significantly more than you were before. She laughs. The co-CEO's salary is actually less than you are making as a consultant, if we calculate hourly rates. But I get benefits now. Health insurance, retirement matching, paid vacation, and I don't have to spend 15% of my time on administrative business tasks and client management. True. Also, we share connecting offices now, which means I can bother you constantly with questions without having to schedule formal meetings. We have separate offices with a connecting door, which will remain closed during deep work time. We are establishing boundaries right now. You're going to make so many rules, aren't you? So many rules. Frameworks, protocols, communication standards, everything properly documented and systematized. This is already a nightmare. But she's grinning, and I'm grinning, and for the first time in our entire lives, we're actually on the same team, instead of competing for the same limited pool of parental attention and family approval. The first 6 months of co-leadership are predictably messy. We disagree on approximately everything important. Morgan wants to expand aggressively into home goods and furniture. I think we should consolidate our core product categories first and optimize what we're already doing. I want to invest heavily in warehouse automation and logistics technology. Morgan thinks we should prioritize digital marketing and social media presence. She makes a unilateral decision about a new supplier relationship without consulting me. I override her decision in front of the operations team. We have an absolutely epic screaming match in the main office that the entire building can hear through the thin walls. Mom has to mediate. Grandma observes from her strategic distance. The staff starts an informal betting pool about how long this co-CEO experiment will last before it implodes completely. But slowly, painfully, through trial and extensive error, we figure out how to actually work together effectively. We create detailed frameworks for decision-making authority and consultation requirements. We establish clear boundaries about which decisions require consensus versus individual authority. We learn each other's communication styles and thinking patterns, and how to compensate for each other's blind spots and weaknesses. We start finishing each other's sentences in board meetings, which is occasionally annoying, but surprisingly effective for presenting unified strategic vision.